All right, guys, we are going to talk a little bit about matrices today. We're just going to review some of the stuff that we already learned. So I just want to go through it really quick and give you a little heads up on what's going to be on your quiz tomorrow. So first we talked about adding matrices, and you remember our little trick. To add a matrix, they must be the same dimensions. So you look at your matrices and you decide, are they the same dimensions? Are they not? So let's look at these ones. So this matrix A right here has 2 rows and 3 columns, which means it's a 2 by 3. Remember, row by column. That's how we label it. And this one has 2 rows by 3 columns. Since they have the same dimensions, we can add these two together. And to add them, you just add the corresponding elements. So you add 5 plus 3, 7 plus 6, 3 plus 7, 5 plus 3, 6 plus 7, and 7 plus 3. So you add each of those together, and in the end you get 8 and 13 and 10, and looky there, 8 and 13 and 10. So A plus B equals 8, 13, 10, 8, 13, 10, and it's a 2 by 3 matrix, just like our original ones. So that's adding matrices. Subtracting works the same way. You just subtract 5 minus 3, 7 minus 6, and so on. So let's take a look at, remember we talked about that a matrix can represent a shape. And so remember, when we're talking about a matrix being a shape, each of the vertices of our shape gets a column, and each of the rows represent X and Y. So if we look at a triangle that has vertices at 3, 5, 6, 7, and 7, 3, what we say is, okay, A should have a column that has a 3 and a 5 in it, B should have a column that has a 6 and a 7, and C should have a column that has a 7 and a 3. And then we just look, well, the X's need to be in the first row, and the Y's need to be in the second row. So 3, 5, 6, 7, and 7, 3. So in this case, this would be the matrix that represents a triangle with those vertices. Okay? All right, so now remember about multiplying by a scalar. Multiplying by a scalar is the easy matrix multiplication that we talked about. Basically, you multiply every number by the scalar. So if we have a matrix 10, 6, 4, and 3, and we want to multiply that by 2, all we do is we take 2 times 10, 2 times 6, 2 times 4, and 2 times 3. So we get 20, 12, 8, and 6. So multiplying by a scalar is really just distributing that into each element in the matrix. Okay, so now multiplying matrices, the hard stuff. So we talked about the belly button rule. So when we're looking at multiplying matrices, we have to decide, can we or can we not multiply them first? So we look at the matrix and we look at its dimensions. So we start out this matrix. Let's decide what its dimensions are. Well, it's got 2 rows and 3 columns. So this is a 2 by 3 matrix. Now this matrix has 3 columns and 2 rows, or 3 rows and 2 columns, sorry. So that's a 3 by 2. Now when we check the belly button rule, what we do is we put those together. We say that one was a 3, oh, that one was a 2 by 3, a 2 by 3, and the other one was a 3 by 2. And then we check the innies, these inner numbers, these are our innies, and if they match, then we can multiply them. And our outies tell us what the product matrix is going to look like. So it tells us that our new matrix is going to be a 2 by 2. So the innies have to match, and our outies tell us what the product matrix dimensions are. So always check the belly button rule first, because there's a really good possibility that they aren't going to be able to multiply together. Okay, so let's practice multiplying this one. So you have the two matrices, and remember what I do is I check. This is a 2 by 2. This is a 2 by 2. So I check the innies. They do multiply. Then the outies tell me what my new matrix is going to be. So my new one is going to be a 2 by 2. So when we multiply, this is what I want you to do. I want you to write your new matrix down here, that it's a 2 by 2 matrix. Then I want you to take this first matrix and put it next to it. Okay? So you set it up so that you have your matrix here and your matrix here. Okay? Now this is how we do it. So first, we highlight row 1 of our first matrix and column 1 by our second matrix. Remember our songs, row by column, row by column. So we're going to multiply row by column. Row 1 by column 1. Then you come here to your outside numbers and you multiply 2 times 1, and then you multiply in. So you start 2 times 1 is 2, 0 times negative 1 is 0, and then you add those numbers together. So you say 2 times 1 is 2, that's 2, plus 0 times negative 1, which is 0. So we would say 2 times 1 plus 0 times negative 1, and that gives us 2. That value goes right here, right where our 2 highlighted lines cross. Now we're going to highlight row 1, column 2. And I better move my matrix over a little, shouldn't I? All right, we're going to highlight row 1, column 2. So we use each row with each column. So we did row 1, column 1. Now we're going to keep with row 1 and go to the next column. So where these two meet is where our new answer is going to be, and we just start on the outside and multiply in. Negative 3 times 1 plus 0 times 8. Okay, so you start on the outside, multiply, multiply, and then add them together. We have negative 3 plus 0 gives us a negative 3. So this value right here is a negative 3. Okay, now we've used all of the columns for this row. So we're going to go to the next row. So we highlight this row, row 2, column 1. This is where our answer is going to go. So then we just multiply in. We start on the outside, 4 times 2 plus 5 times negative 1. So again, we start on the outside, multiply those, move in toward where our answer is going to be and multiply those, and then add those products together. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. So 8 and negative 5 gets us a positive 3. 8 and negative 5 gives us a positive 3. So we put our positive 3 right here where those two met. Row 2, column 1. And then finally, we find our last, we take row 2, and we need to go to column 2. So this is our last value right here. We start on the outside and we multiply these numbers together. So you have negative 3 and 4 is a negative 12, negative 3 times 4. And then you move in. 5 times 8 is 40. we add those together. We start on the outside, multiply, multiply, add those products together, and that's what our answer is. So we have negative 12 plus 40, I should write that as, plus 5 times 8, negative 12 plus 40 gives us 28. And so our 28 goes right there. So our new matrix, we'll rewrite it since we have all this highlighting. The product matrix is 2, negative 3, 3, 28. And that's exactly what we expected, was a 2 by 2 matrix. And that's what we got. So that's how you multiply matrices. Now remember, always check the belly button rule first to see if you can multiply, and then just set them up like this. So you have one matrix up here, one matrix here, and your answer matrix goes right here. Then when you highlight, it's going to be easy to see row 1, column 1, row 1, column 2, row 2, column 1, row 2, column 2. Then you know where each of your answers go. Start on the outside, multiply, multiply, add them together and put them here. Okay? So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, email me. We have a test or quiz tomorrow over all of this stuff.